Hello, I'm Michael Verney and welcome along to the Indo GAA podcast with thanks to AIB. AIB is at the heart of Gaelic games across both club and county, and in 2025 they're celebrating a decade of sponsoring the All-Ireland Senior Football Championships. With this year's championship shaping up to be one of the most competitive in years, AIB is more excited than ever to bring fans closer to the action. Check out the hashtag #TheToughest for more. Hello and welcome to Indo GAA, where we'll be looking back on all the GAA action over the weekend. Delighted to be joined as always by John Mullane to look back on the hurling. John, how are you?
All good, Verney. All good, son.
John, I was down in your homeland on Saturday. Disappointing result for you, lads, but I'll just throw something to you here. Our good friend Ned Brennan has a column in the Irish Independent tomorrow, and his headline is "Rivals be warned, Limerick are shown they want to make amends for last year's Drive for Five failure." Was that the sense you got leaving Walsh Park Saturday evening?
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't argue with that. I suppose, look, should there be question marks over this Limerick team this year? Look, we're only going off of the league form, and I suppose getting beaten by Cork, and I suppose how good Cork have been going as well. And Cork seems to be on everyone's lips, and probably the narrative out there is probably that Limerick were losing a bit of that aura and that invincibility about them, and that fear factor. And boy, how they performed the weekend, most certainly you would think that all those elements now are coming back.
They looked fresh, Mull, didn't they? They were bouncing, and even you had it in your column on Saturday, and it's a fair point because it had been the case for a while. They'd been traditionally slow starters and they'd been leaving teams in games and maybe coming back, but they were the ones put the gun to the head of Waterford very, very early. I think they had 7 of the first 9 points, and when you're chasing Limerick, it's always going to be very difficult as well, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I suppose they set the tone from the get-go, and I even felt that they set the tone in the naming of their 15. I mean, when I seen the 15 being named, was it Thursday night? I was kind of going, wow, that's a serious statement of intent that they really mean business. And I think Waterford, look, it's hard to criticise Peter Kylie or the management team, but I think if Peter will look, I don't need to tell Peter or anyone, any Waterford supporters need to tell Peter. Peter will know himself that he possibly should have started Kylie. And when I didn't see Michael Kylie, in the starting 15, I was a small bit worried. I was straight up to you.
Just from a physicality, ball winning point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose, look, particularly with Welsh Park being such a tight, confined pitch, and Limerick, they're such a big, strong, physical team. And even when I was coming into Welsh Park and I was watching them doing the warm-up, and you're kind of, real up close to them, you're kind of going, oh my God, and, you're looking at them across the diameters of Welsh Park, and you're kind of saying, oh, it's going to be hard to find green grass today and play in the green grass. So I even said it in the article Saturday that the previous weekend, and we got away with the previous weekend, that my worry from a Waterford point of view was that if the opposition forced us to go long on our own puck out, that we might struggle. And for large parts of that first half, until Kylie came on, we did struggle. And look, Limerick built up a head of steam. They got a 6.7 head point margin, and they had an arm's length margin.
Yeah.
And when they get an arm's length margin of 6-7 points, they can kind of toy with you then, and they can kind of play with your mind. And you have to work so hard to try and cut that deficit of 6-7 points. And even I felt throughout the course of the game, like we had to work so hard to try and engineer, work a score. And I wouldn't say it was effortless, but it came a lot easier for them to be able to manoeuvre scores an awful lot easier. And I felt even when Kylie did come on that, he sat in on Kyle Hayes. And even though, we went long on 1 or 2 puck outs, we got a bit of joy off it. Like we broke the ball and we were in on the second ball, but I mean, for the 20, 25, 20 minutes, for the first quarter especially, we were just lumping ball down there, and you were lumping the ball down across a line of 3, 4 green joints. And even, the placement of Keane Lynch at number 11, that posed, big problems for Waterford. I mean, Kylie and Kinnerk were now throwing it back to Waterford. Well, particularly Tyg, what are you going to do? Are you going to sit? Are you going to follow? And I was even from where I was positioned in the stand, Tyg was kind of caught in two minds. He was trying to protect the D, and then he's saying, right, will I follow Lynch? And on numerous occasions, he probably, to be fair to him, an incredible player, probably elected to sit in the D rather than follow Lynch, and hence why Lynch got on an enormous amount of ball. And he was just poetry in motion. He was unbelievable to watch. He was just magnificent. Back to the Keane Lynch of old. Just, conductor of the orchestra. I mean, a Rolls Royce of a player. And when you have a Rolls Royce of a player who's, picking off everything and seeing other players around him, and he's laying off balls, and you don't have anyone touch tight on him, you're asking for trouble. And you'll even see going forward now, I think Cork are up next. I mean, you look at when Cork played Limerick last year, Rob Downey was kind of caught in the same predicament as Tyg. Do I sit or do I tag Keane Lynch? And then he would pick up Keane Lynch to a certain point where if Keane Lynch went into midfield, then Ethan Tilmy then would pick him up and would follow him wherever he would go. And I think that's probably something that Cork will look at again. When they do face Limerick in 2 weeks' time, I would imagine they'll go down the same pathway with Ethan Tilmy picking up Lynch and tagging him for the majority of the game.
From a Waterford point of view, it helps when your midfielders have a heap of energy, and years probably didn't from last week. Like I thought the barometer for how Waterford would go would be based actually on how Darragh Lyons and Jack Prendergast played, and that was to do with energy. And they just, with due respect, and it was a team across the field, the same energy just wasn't there 6 days later. But we'll focus a bit on Waterford in a second. Just on Limerick, if you look at it, Mull, Kyle Hayes back at 6 looked really, really comfortable. Nash playing at 7, where he hasn't really played in Championship, looked real comfortable. Dan Morrissey's slipped back in. I thought that was Galan's best game in a while. Adam English looked real comfortable. Lynch looked comfortable. Tom Morrissey looked back to himself. Like, that is worrying when you put it all down on paper, isn't it? And that's not to mention the Bull O'Brien, who ended up with 4 from play and who just looks really comfortable at this level as well.
Yeah, and the most pleasing thing in Kylie remarked after the match, it's another game into the legs of Nicky Quaid in the goal. And they got game time into Carl O'Neill. Darragh O'Donovan came on, and Aidan O'Connor got a great score. And, they were wise enough as well. And they're learning. They're learning now that, probably a bit like Cork, that probably the only thing that might stand in their way is if they do go down to 14 men, and they're taking the lessons of previous years where they've probably stayed loyal to a couple of players when they've been on a yellow card, but not Saturday night. As soon as Dermot Burns got the yellow, I think he got another tick. He got a tick before it. He got a warning off the lines, then he got a yellow card, and it was down in front of me. The crowd were going after Burns, and they're saying, right down our side. If Burns was going to, come in heavy-handed, the crowd were going to go after him. They're going to try and get him sent off, and it was very, very good management whipping him off.
He was right on the line though, Mull, wasn't he? Like,
he was.
If you look at that rap tackle, that easily could have been a yellow, potentially a black if there hadn't been defenders back. Like, he left himself. He left the referee make a decision, and they I think they had to take him off. And even it was funny to see Burns, Kylie, and Kinnerk having a little conflab on the line before they took him off. And I think they explained the situation to him. And then when he was coming off, I don't know if you noticed that when he was coming off, he was like, like shaking hands with them all, and it was real kind of positive rather than a lad throwing the ties out of the pram or anything like that. And it was the benefits of having it explained. But he was right on the line now. They easily could have been down to 14.
Absolutely, and the most pleasing thing as well is then when Coughlin came in, then the impact he had when he came in, he was very, very good, and they didn't lose that kind of that strength across that half back line. But I think John Kylie leaving Welsh Park Saturday evening, I think he will be thrilled at where Limerick are right now, considering where there's possibly a lot of head scratching, within their setup, and probably a lot of head scratching from Limerick supporters as to know, where Limerick were, going into the championship. But now 2 away games out of the way, they've 3 points on the board, and they're in a really good place now going into Cork in 2 weeks' time, and then Clare at home.
Mull, you were obviously watching the game live no more than myself. Did you see the GAA Plus interview with Kylie after the game?
I did, and yes, I did. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting now because
what was very interesting was the remark about that. There's the age profile of this team. Probably, he's probably having, thrown it back even to probably someone like myself, was probably still, I still think, I'd like to have a look at them when they get out in the big open fields of Croke Park, how their defence will cope with a team like Cork. So, look, as of now, they're in a, he couldn't have asked for any more, and he was delighted at how his defence held up. But I think they were possibly helped considerably the weekend by how Waterford went about their business, particularly in that first half.
Just fly through Kylie's comments, because it was Mike Finnerty put the question to him about GAA Plus, that when Waterford came back to them, despite the years on the road and the miles on the clock, and I could see Kylie's eyes kind of lighting up, and it's good to see it. But he just said these guys are not even 30 years of age yet. I think some people are just maybe tired of them winning rather than the length of time that they've been playing. There's many years left in the legs of these guys, I can assure you. They're not metal, they're not going to corrode or degrade, they're able to recover, they're able to renew. You saw that in the last 2 games. We produced serious levels of intensity, great energy, and we're really happy with that. That's the most pleasing piece across the 2 games. And now you can't tell me that they're not taking a bit of motivation from things that are flying around. They've lost a yard, do they have the same appetite? And that's not the sole motivation, but Mull, from playing, it can't be the sole motivation, but it's nice to have it there. It's nice to have it when someone is questioning you, because it just reaffirms that little bit of hunger, doesn't it?
Yeah, and look, don't tell me for 1 minute that they don't listen, they don't tune into the Sunday game, and they don't tune into podcasts. Of course they do. I mean, players have so much time, and management has so much time on their hands, and they're trying to pick up little nuggets and little angles where they can throw it back to the players and say, I wouldn't say they're going all out and saying, such and such said this or such and such said that. But I'd say, probably within their own environment, they're saying, but look, such and such is writing us up and saying this and saying that. And probably, as you just touched on there, why wouldn't you use it as motivation? I've used it in the past. I'm sure you've used it in the past. I've definitely used it at club level. I've definitely used it at county level. And don't tell me for 1 minute that these boys aren't doing the same,
Yeah, it's funny. Do you remember that great interview with Eamon Cregan after Limerick won a championship game? He was manager. It was like, Eamon, where did this performance come from? The media. He just said straight away, it was brilliant stuff. But they'll definitely use it. It's not their sole motivation, but it's definitely there. The hunger is there anyway, but this kind of feeds into it a bit more.
But doesn't it just set it up lovely for 2 weeks' time, 4 o'clock in the Gaelic grounds? And if the last part of his interview, he was, and I remarked about this, the role that supporters have. He touched on the supporters and using the Gaelic grounds is, our fortress, and calling on the Limerick supporters now, 2 weeks' time, get out, support, get behind us. Now, the Limerick supporters, geez, there was great support there last Saturday. And look, they haven't been sound wanting the last 6, 7 years. And I can only, Jesus, the amount of the expense it's after costing them the last 6, 7 years. But it was just interesting, that
It was a rallying cry, wasn't it? Like it was
a rallying cry, and I'd say, and I go back to it that when they were beaten by Cork in on both occasions last year, I mean they were outnumbered down in Parky Queeve, and they were outnumbered up in Crow Park, and I'd say he's saying to himself, when we get down to the business end of things, and when we come up against Cork, we don't want that to happen again,
Yeah, 100%. From a Waterford point of view, Mull, the 6 days it was talked about beforehand. I was chatting Dan the previous week, and you're not making excuses before it starts, but you know how big of an effect it's going to have, and like they just didn't have the same bounce. I thought for the likes of Barron, Stephen Bennett, it was going to be difficult to reproduce what they did the previous week. Like your best player and one of your highest scorers from play was Mark Fitzgerald, the defender, and the same energy wasn't there. The endeavour was there and the application was there, but it's hard to have the same energy 6 days later. I know you've played in championship games multiple, you played 6 days later as well, and it's difficult mentally and emotionally.
Yeah, but just touching on Mark Fitzgerald, oh boy, he's a player now. He's a player now, and look, I watched him a couple of times at club level, and I'd be doing the radio with Shane McGrath, and how highly he speaks of Mark Fitzgerald, because with his time with UL, and for people to be saying that he could be, talking in the same light as Ken McGrath, that's the ultimate compliment you could give any lad. And I'm looking at this lad and I'm saying, yeah, this lad keeps going the way he's going. Why not? I mean, he's really, really after impressing me, particularly this. But whatever last year, I was saying, we were talking about him last year, and I was talking about him in a couple of the paper articles. But the more I get to see this lad, the more impressed I am by him. But yeah, look, going back to it, I suppose Peter kind of touched on it. The physical side of it, they didn't do anything for the 6 days, but it's more the mental side of having to come back down and build yourself back up again to go again. And look, I've been there myself. I've done it on 2 occasions in 2003 against Limerick, and the Munster final in 2010. There, when the Munster final in 2010. Both teams were in the same predicament that they had to go out 6 days later. But when you're coming up against a fresh Limerick team, who, let's be honest with you, are probably a bit hurt, probably a bit put out after the Tipperary game, and probably a bit put out over some of the remarks after the Tipperary game, and they're coming in, they're fresh, they're hungry for road, and you're coming off the back of a 6-day turnaround against Clare the following week. It was always possibly going to be a big ask,
This weekend's game, well, you said it in your column, someone had said to you, a GAA man said to you, what's the best result for Waterford out of Tipperary and Clare? And you remarked to him, was for you to get a result against Limerick on Saturday night, which it was. Like, that game on Saturday has huge ramifications for everyone, the 2 teams involved, but yourselves obviously too. Massive game, isn't it?
Oh, it has huge significance, and I suppose, look, from Limerick will also be watching on, because I mean, just say if Clare are to beat Tipperary, Clare are back in the race, and then Clare would go to the Gaelic grounds looking for a result to qualify him.
Clare win their last 2 games. Waterford beat Tip, and Limerick are out.
You see, so there's going to be an awful lot of twists and turns, right now. But look, from a Waterford perspective and a Waterford point of view, if you told any Waterford supporter or told Peter Queally and his management team or the Waterford players that, hey, you'd get 1 win out of the first 2 results, knowing that, we can go up to Tipperary, up to Thurles, that, it's a venue we like, that if we can beat Tipperary, there's a strong chance that we will qualify. And look, I will be thinking 4 is the magic number. I think we've two chances now. And look, if Cork were to beat Limerick, who's to say that in that last game, if I'm the Cork management or if I'm Pat Ryan, he'd be in every right to probably rest a couple of players, knowing that he's in the Munster final. So I think we're in a great position. Look, we're not going to be playing Limerick every day of the week. Probably Limerick and Cork are the bar right now, and I think we'd have a very, very good chance of beating Tipperary, and it's a fantastic chance, or it's a fantastic for the Waterford supporters to be going up to Thurles. We always love going up to Thurles, and I would imagine there will be a big Waterford following would go up to Thurles, because it's been a while now since Waterford supporters and a Waterford team in general have gone up to Thurles, playing a game that's nearly effectively a game that is going to be a knockout game, knowing that if we win the match, we're probably going to be in an All-Ireland quarter-final. And if we get to an All-Ireland quarter-final, there's every chance we can get to an All-Ireland semi-final. Now look, what's to say we could still win our last 2 games and get to a Munster final. But I just think the Tipperary game is the one. I think the Cork game down at Páirc Uí Chaoimh, we've seen how good Cork are down at Páirc Uí Chaoimh. It will be a big ask. But look, as I touched on, there's still an awful lot of hurling to be played. But that match Saturday night, that's kind of I wouldn't say it's a winner takes all. It's kind of a winner survive game for either team, and whatever team wins will continue to survive in the championship, and the loser will have a short summer.
It's funny, Mull, you said the week of the league final, Tipper playing Cork, you said, looking at the 3 games, what would Tip take out of those 3 games? What's the scenario that would satisfy some? And I had a prominent Tip fella on to me saying, I'd take 1 point. I'd take a loss in the league final and 1 point on the board going into our 3rd round game. Tipper's still in a good spot because they can kind of write off the Cork game in one respect. They lost a man at the start. They're obviously going to be missing Darren McCarthy for the next day as well. But they just need to win their last 2 games. 2 games, they were just trying to survive, I'd say, and they have survived. So they'll fancy their chances winning the 2 games that are left. And Clare will fancy their chances going in on Saturday as well. It's brilliant. And as you say, a win keeps, make sure that they survive, and it gives them oxygen going into the last game, whoever does win. Now, you couldn't rule out a draw as well, obviously, too.
But very, I mean, we had this conversation last year and the previous year. I mean, the contrast between both the Leinster Championship and the Munster Championship. I mean, the Munster Championship, it's nearly about trying to survive and keep your head above water. And the Leinster Championship, there's scope that will allow you to try and maybe grow into the championship. And I just think something has got to give. And I even said it on league. I said it on Sunday Sport with Des Cattle on Sunday. I think they might have to look at it going forward. Can they push it out to what I was proposing to the Des is maybe push it out to qualification for 4 teams on both the Leinster Championship and the Munster Championship. And what I would do is, now people say, oh, you're going to take away from the Munster Championship and you're going to take away from the Leinster Championship. You won't, because what I would do then is I love this the fact that the likes of Waterford, Clare, can have championship matches in Ennis, in Welsh Park. I mean, the atmosphere around Welsh Park, around Waterford the last 2 weekends has been just been brilliant. Like, I mean, the Clare supporters even coming down on a Saturday night, some of them have a few beers. I even seen some of them Clare jerseys cycling out into the Greenway Sunday morning, coming back in and then going to the match. And even Limerick supporters remarked to me after the match on the pitch after the match, saying, "Jesus, John, you've a smashing venue down here. It's a lovely venue, and Jesus, you've been so nice to us down here." And we from a Waterford perspective, we probably didn't feel a part of the championship when we didn't have home games. But now we feel a part of the championship. And I think we can push it on even more now, Michael, where I would be saying 4 out of Munster, 4 out of Leinster. And you'd be saying, well, what? Bring back the All-Ireland 4 quarter-finals. And people say, well, where's the reward for winning the Munster Championship or winning the Leinster Championship? I won the Munster Championship in 2007, and our reward for winning the Munster Championship in 2007 is that we had to face Cork again in an All-Ireland quarter-final. But here's the catch. You just take it. If Limerick won the Munster Championship, right, they would have home advantage against the 4th place team in Leinster. The runners-up in Munster, they would also get home advantage. They would play the 3rd team in Leinster, and the winners of Leinster, take a Kilkenny, they would get home advantage in Nolan Park. Likewise, the Leinster runners-up, they would get home advantage. Could you imagine, like, Waterford finishing 4th and Kilkenny winning the Leinster Championship, and Waterford having to go up to Nolan Park on a Saturday night in an All-Ireland quarter-final? Say Galway lose their Leinster Championship, but they still get home advantage for getting to the Leinster final, and then take a Clare finish 3rd in Munster, or even Tipperary finish 3rd in Munster, and they have to go up to Salt Hill on a Saturday night. 2 games on the Saturday, 2 games on the Sunday, 4 games, and I think it's going to grow it even more. And you're giving these teams, these counties, extra games at home. And I think it's a win-win for everybody, There
are parts of it I like. I like the idea of the home advantage and getting a benefit to winning your province or whatever. But I have to say, I think you'd be playing a hell of a lot of games to get rid of 3 teams. And I just think it would take away. I think it would take away what's great about Munster. The big thing about Munster is the jeopardy, and teams are killing each other because they're trying to survive. Whereas there's only 1 team eliminated. I think that would take away the.
I don't. And
look, are you telling me, Mull, that the teams would go at each other hammer and tongs like they are now, even if only 1 team has been exited, and that the fans would show up to the same degree when they know that listen, there's an 80% chance we're still going to be in the championship after Munster is over?
I still do believe that the crowd numbers will be up, and I still think there'll be an honour and the prestige of winning the Munster Championship. I really do. I really, really do. And I think...
I thought you were nearly going to suggest, Mull, that the 5 should be true in Munster anyway and just let the 3 through in Leinster.
Either way, you're still going to lose. You're still going to lose 1. And you even take it a county like Offaly, who are trying to grow for the next couple of years. It would give Offaly a great opportunity of knowing that, right, if we win 2 games, we can get into an All-Ireland quarter-final. And I just think, going forward for the next 5-6 years, I think it's going to continue to be difficult for the likes of a county like Waterford, that we're yet to nail this top 3 of trying to get out. Like, let's be honest about it. Waterford every year are going to face into, right, you take this year, we played the league champions, All-Ireland champions, 4 in a row All-Ireland winners. Cork were in the All-Ireland final last year. Cork won the league. So, like...
Well, have you invented a structure here to make sure that Waterford stay in the championship?
No, I'm not. But really break it down. I mean, the championship is lopsided, Verney.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that.
The championship is lopsided, and you even take the games in Leinster the weekend, albeit the Wexford and the Galway game. There's not a whole lot else at stake, because realistically, Offaly now are probably going to be focusing on that Antrim game being the do or die game. Because if Offaly were to beat Wexford, all right, they still have to beat Antrim, because Antrim would have them on the head to head. So I just think it's food for thought. I think something definitely has got to give, because this championship is too lopsided.
Yeah, okay. It's probably a debate maybe for when the championship is over. I know Peter Kylie was saying as well after about, and Dan had said it the week before, about trying to make sure that teams have 2 weeks between championship games, and he had no issue with starting the championship earlier if that was the case. And listen, Munster is always going to be difficult because it's 5 and it's uneven, and somebody's going to get a short straw. But if the short straw is shared every year, shall we say, and next year, or for the next 4 years, you're not going to have that scenario. It would be okay. Whereas in Leinster, it's 6, it's an even number. Everybody plays the same weekend. Everybody has the same turnaround pretty much. But a couple of other things we'll need to chat about over the weekend. I know you're heavily involved and have been heavily involved in Camogie in your own club in De La Salle. The skorts situation. That was a farcical situation at the weekend. Just to give a bit of background, a motion went to the Camogie Association Congress last year to, I think it was actually to have a choice so that you could wear the skirt if you wanted to, or if you could wear shorts if you wanted to. It was defeated. I think it only got, was it 36% support? It was 64% against. So that would be off the claw or off the motions until Congress, until 2027. But there's been a good bit of talk behind the scenes about potentially changing something or making a move or whatever, and Kilkenny and Dublin decided to wear their shorts for that Leinster semi-final at the weekend. And Ray Kelly spoke to the captains beforehand, and the last thing he said to them was that you're going to have to change into your skorts, and he was giving them a 15-minute warning or the game would be abandoned / postponed. They did. They went in and changed into their skorts. The game was played and Kilkenny won. Katie Power was chatting on KCLR 96 FM yesterday, just saying that it was more about making a stand and getting people talking about it, which it definitely has. But it's a farcical situation, where in this day and age, we're talking about, restricting what players have to wear, and actually something that's totally uncomfortable and that is not yet, that kind of can actually expose female players as well, by all accounts. And even they were talking about photographers and how they have to get rid of 15 or 20% of their photos because they're just not they're not good photos. Basically, they're exposing players, which is not what anybody wants. You have a lot of knowledge of Camogie, Mull. This is something that's spoken about quite a bit, I'd imagine. The only time they wear their skorts, by all accounts, is when they're playing a championship game or an official fixture. They wear shorts for challenge games, trainings, etc., by all accounts.
Yeah, look, I know Ray's a very good referee, and to be fair, I don't think Ray would have, been comfortable having to do that the weekend, and but he's only going by, the rules, but I don't think he would have taken great comfort in that. So I don't think we can be too hard on Ray Kelly. So we'll just clear that up, starting off first. But yeah, I suppose, look, it's I'd have a couple of daughters playing, and I'd be a coach with De La Salle Camogie team, and look, you'd have the likes of Beck Karen and Abby Flynn, Brianna, Keely Barry, Alana, and all we've about Maggie Costello, about 6 or 7 on the county team, and every training session they all wear shorts, and the majority of them, like the majority of Camogie players, play ladies Gaelic football, and then they're being probably, 1 week they're being asked to wear skorts, and then they go with playing Gaelic football, then they can wear the shorts. And I think probably the most annoying thing from a player's point of view is that they're not being listened to. I mean, there's been numerous occasions where there's been polls done, and the poll could come out with 85-90% want this changed or want that changed, and it never goes through. So I think that's probably the one sticking point, is that I think, these people who are supposed to be representing, at county level, are just not listening to the players. And I'd say the players are probably feel a bit aggrieved that, we need to be listened more to. Now, I think I'd be straight from Verney. Is it 2027? We're coming under the one umbrella.
Yeah.
Best of luck to that. I think.
There you go. Yeah. What hope do we have?
I'll be straight. Yeah. Some of the stuff that I see happening within the ladies' game, whether it be Camogie or ladies' Gaelic football, I'm just scratching my head saying, "Oh my God!" Well, how are these girls ever going to get parity, or how are they ever going to come under the one umbrella in a timeline of 2 years' time, when probably the people above them some of them are living in the Stone Ages, like. You know, and even I give you an example, like 2 weeks ago when Waterford were playing Clare, in the first round, small things like this, like, you know, the Waterford and Tipperary were playing County and what. The Waterford Tipperary game was fixed for 1 o'clock on the same day. And you even take it, some of the Waterford girls now, we take the likes of Annie Fitzgerald, her brother, Hadge Fitzgerald, was playing the same at an hour later in Welsh Park, and she was up playing against Tipperary. It's small things like that that, you know, really kind of annoy me. That
They're small things, Mull, but they're big things.
they're big
For the
things.
family, like, do you know what I mean?
For the family, like you take the two parents of both Padge Fitzgerald and Annie Fitzgerald. They're caught in a predicament, right? Will I go and support my daughter, or will I go and support my son? That shouldn't be allowed. It shouldn't be allowed to happen. And I mean, again, that goes back to the people, you know, at board level, at say Munster Council level, or you know, whatever level, overlooking the whole thing. You know, common sense has to prevail on some of these occasions, and I just feel, yeah, it's at a crossroads now. Fair play to those girls for taking a stance, and for me, I think the players have to be listened to, and I wouldn't like to see this having a choice of wear one or the other. I think you either wear one or the other, and I will be saying, right, if the shorts are coming in, you do away with the skorts. Now I 3 daughters at home. One of them is 14. One of them is not. One of them would rather wear shorts, and the younger one, she likes the tradition of wearing the skirt. And I can see it probably from some of these people who are making all these decisions. There's old traditionalists that they don't want to break away from the skirt. But
Things change, though, Mull, doesn't it? Life moves on.
Absolutely, but I can see it from the players' perspective that, you know, they feel more comfortable wearing shorts, and they feel that they're not being heard. They're speaking out about this, and they're not. It's just not being taken on board, and it's probably sad that it probably had to come to that the weekend, that those players had to take that stance, and it's probably sad that probably, you know, Ray was caught in that situation that he had to warn the girls, you know, and yeah, I don't know where it's going to go going forward, but most certainly it's definitely at a crossroads. Something has got to give in these situations, you know.
The last thing I'll just say quickly, Mull, my own Offaly under-20s went down yesterday. They're defending, they were going for 3 in a row under-20 level. In Leinster, they were going for back-to-back All-Irelands. Behind the scenes, I kind of know that they were down 4 or 5, and that it's been a bit of a struggle for the past 2 months, and probably the senior team going so well has probably affected the under-20s as well. Most people, a lot of comments and commentary around the game was how big of a shock it was. I wouldn't have said it was that big of a shock, but disappointing from an Offaly point of view, because this is like in my lifetime anyway, in where I've been able to appreciate it. I know that they had great success in 86, 87 and 89 at minor level, but this has been like a revelation for everybody in Offaly the last couple of years, and the joy we've got now of it. And they can all kind of focus, the majority of them who are involved, the seniors, can all focus on the senior now as well. But disappointing that we won't get to see Screeney and these lads on a Wednesday night or whatever on TG Carr for the rest of the year, unfortunately.
And it's disappointing we won't get to see the bumper crowds. I mean, they've been the making of the under-20 championship the last couple of years. I mean, the crowds they were bringing to games. But look, I suppose it's in hurling funny. The year you probably, you know, think you might win it, you don't win it, and the year that you probably don't think you'll win it, you go and achieve the success. And I think the one pleasing thing from, you know, this golden generation is that, you know, they got an All-Ireland last year. I mean, they should have won the All-Ireland, the minor All-Ireland 3 years ago. they came up against a very, very good Cork team the previous year in the under 20 final. But they would be really, it would be really sad to think of what they've really given to the underage game at both minor and under 20, that they didn't have any All Ireland to show for it. But look, they have that All Ireland banked away, and you just touched on it there. It's Leo O'Connor probably couldn't get the juggling was probably a bit harder this year, in contrast to last year, where the Joe McDonough probably gave him a little bit more leeway to be able to get his hands on players. But when as soon as Offaly have gone up the senior championship and you're trying to survive in Leinster, and it's dog eat dog, week on, week off, probably made it a tad more difficult for Leo O'Connor and the Offaly players this year,
Yeah, the senior was the only gig in town this year, in fairness.
Well, you just touched on it. The biggest game for Offaly, and you touched on it on the last previous couple of pods, is that game against Antrim.
Oh yeah.
In 3 weeks' time in Tullamore. That's possibly going to be Offaly's All Ireland in 3 weeks' time. And now, albeit the under 20s are gone, the focus now can really home in on the last couple of matches. They go to Kilkenny, then they play Wexford, and they play Antrim. But I think it's going to come down to that Antrim game itself,
Yeah, loads of really interesting provincial stuff to be played out over the next couple of weeks, and we'll be chatting to you again soon, Mull. Thanks a million for joining us.
You're welcome, Verney.